Hi guys, it's Candy. Welcome back to another book video. So I thought it would be really fun to share with you guys my top 10 favorite romance books that I've read so far this year in 2022. I gave all of these books that I'm going to share with you 5 stars, hands down. I would recommend them to anyone, whether you're just trying to get into reading or discover new authors, or you just want to add to your forever growing TBR pile. Some of these are really popular, but others of them you may not have heard of. So we're gonna just jump right into it and start sharing. So the first book is Fool Me Twice by Carrie Aarons. And I had never heard of this author before. I actually picked up this book because Carly had seen someone make a TikTok on it, and she had said, "Mom, this sounds like a book that you would really like." And it was so good. I actually want to read more books by her. I love that this book was actually kind of short. I love being able to sit down and just fly through a book in a day, like on a weekend. But this book is about Henley. Her friend, Catherine, right before her 18th birthday, passed away from cancer. And Catherine had a bucket list of a whole bunch of stuff that she was working on, and she only got about halfway through the list. So Henley thought that it would be a good idea to finish her bucket list for her. So there's things on the list like dye my hair, go camping, have sex. And then the most important one on the list was get revenge on Lincoln, which was a guy that Catherine was dating that dumped her right after he had found out that she was sick. So Henley was convinced that this guy deserved to be treated like he treated her friend. So she literally ends up going to the same college that he does. So he's the big man on campus. Everybody is in awe of him. He's a football player, super hot. And Henley does what she can to get this guy to notice her. And her whole plan is I'm going to get this guy to fall in love with me, and then I'm going to dump him. I'm going to ruin his reputation, and so on and so forth. I'll tell you, there's a lot of spice in this book. So if you don't like reading that kind of thing, don't pick it up. But if you do like a little bit of spice, you will love this book. Next up, of course, gonna have some Colleen Hoover books in this pile. I have 2 of them. Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. It's her most recent release, and actually I read Verity and then I read Reminders of Him. So this is the second book I read of hers, the first romance, because Verity is more of like a thriller. So the story is about Kenna, who just got out of jail after serving a 5-year sentence. The minute she gets out, her main goal is to find her 4-year-old daughter and try to build a relationship with her. But unfortunately, there are some people standing in the way that don't want Kenna to be in the little girl's life. And then, of course, she meets Ledger, the good-looking owner of the local bar. They end up striking up a relationship, kind of not with any intention of it really being anything. And before you know it, they find out that their paths actually cross. They actually know each other. They actually have someone in their life in common. And it's really good. It's made me cry, and I highly recommend this. If you've never read any Colleen Hoover before, I feel like this is a good start as well, because like I said, it's not a corny romance at all. It's actually a book that has a good amount of substance to it. Next up, the Friend Zone series by Abby Jimenez. Sort of. And I say sort of because Book 1 and Book 2, The Friend Zone and the Happy Ever After playlist, I gave both 5 stars. The third book, Life's Too Short, I liked it. I mean, I still highly recommend it. I just did not give it 5 stars. I didn't feel like it was as good as the first 2. The Friend Zone is actually about Kristen, and she's a girl that has some things going on in her life that kind of is making her shy away from wanting to develop a relationship of anything serious. And one of the things is she's hiding a secret from everyone in her life, that she needs to have this medical procedure that is going to make it so she most likely cannot have children. Well, as she's planning her best friend's wedding, she ends up meeting Josh, who is going to be the best man in the wedding. And they have so much chemistry between the 2 of them. And that is why I love these books, because the author just does such an amazing job at describing the characters. Like, you just fall in love with them, fall in love with their relationships. I love this book. Book 2 actually picks up kind of where the first book leaves off. However, this time the main character is Sloane. Sloane is Kristen's best friend, the girl whose wedding she was help plan, and unfortunately Sloane lost her fiance to a very tragic accident. So while Sloane's trying to pick up the pieces of her life, she happens to just find this stray dog. I can't remember exactly how this happened, but I think like the dog had a collar with the owner's name. And so she started like texting the phone number, and it took like weeks for the guy to respond to her, the owner. And so she was like, this guy doesn't even deserve to get his dog back. Well, it ends up that all their texts and then phone calls and then meeting in person, they start to develop a little bit of liking for each other. And Jason, this new guy, he's just like exactly what she needs, but at the same time, how does Sloane really fit into his life? Because he's got a budding music career, like the hot new thing, super attractive. And she's just like, what am I thinking? Thinking that I could be what this guy would want to be with when he could have any girl he wants. Loved it so much. Actually, I would give this one 6 stars if I could. Next up, we have It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Tessa Bailey, I guess, is known for her books that are pretty spicy. This is the first book that I had read by her, and I'll say I enjoyed the spiciness of this book. So it basically starts out with the main character, Piper. She's like a fashionista, she's an influencer, and her stepfather has a crap ton of money. So she ends up doing something where she breaks the law, gets in a ton of trouble, and her stepfather decides to teach her a lesson to Westport, Washington, where they have to take care of her late father's like dive bar in this little small town. That's where she ends up meeting this guy right here, Brendan. Burly, bearded sea captain who really doesn't have any time or interest for a relationship. So of course you have a lot of the song and dance where they have this huge amount of chemistry between the two of them, but they go on and on and on pretending that they're not interested in each other. There's actually a little budding relationship that occurs with Piper's sister and another guy in the story, and actually there is a part 2 to this book called Hook, Line, and Sinker, which I have not read yet, but I'm excited to read someday soon. Time for another coho book, Confess. So it's about this girl, Auburn. She actually is just down and out in her luck. She ends up deciding to walk into this art studio, kind of just randomly. She's walking down the street and seen like a help wanted sign and decides to walk into this art studio, and there she meets Owen. So their really fun, quirky relationship starts turning into a little romance. Everything is going to fall apart if Owen does not confess to Auburn the big secret that he's been keeping this whole entire time. And there are some other things that happen in there too. The whole confess comes from the fact that Owen creates his art by having random strangers write on pieces of paper their confessions, and then he just creates this amazing art. Absolutely loved it so much. Makes me want to read more coho books immediately. All right, Taylor Jenkins Reid, One True Loves. Funny thing is for the longest time I had this book and I was even reading the book, didn't realize that it's loves, one true loves, not just love. This is another one that I guess probably isn't a really, really big romance book. You're not gonna find like big spicy scenes in this book. You're gonna find really deep emotional scenes in this book. I don't know why I call them scenes because it's a book, not a movie, but. So this is about Emma, who ends up marrying her high school sweetheart, Jesse. Right at their 1-year anniversary, Jesse has to go out on assignment for his job. Ends up that his helicopter crashes, actually goes missing over the Pacific Ocean. And after a period of time, Jesse is presumed dead. So Emma ends up quitting her job, moving back home, runs her parents' bookstore, and there she reconnects with another guy that she sort of had a crush on in high school before she had met her husband, Sam. And Sam is kind of nothing like her first husband. Two totally different personalities, but reading all those details and kind of how she compared the two guys to each other really made the book interesting for me. Well, you're not gonna believe what happens. It actually really is pretty unbelievable. Jesse comes back. Jesse is alive. A little far-fetched for me, but you're not really concentrating on that part. You're concentrating on the fact that Emma ends up getting engaged to Sam. and Jesse's back. So now what is she supposed to do? Hence the one true loves. And it's literally, I mean, I don't even need to explain it. It's exactly what you think. Now Emma needs to decide, what is she gonna do? Technically, legally, she's still married to Jesse. So do they try and make the relationship work, pick up where they left off? Or is Jesse her past and she wants to concentrate on her future with Sam? We have another Abby Jimenez book, Part of Your World. This is her latest release, and oh my word, I loved this book so much. So it's about Alexis, who comes from this ultra wealthy family. Her dad is a doctor, Alexis is a doctor. Literally the hospital is named after her family. So she has a lot of pressure on her back to like carry on the family name, okay? Well, she ends up meeting Daniel, a hot carpenter in this little teeny tiny small town that she ends up just, I think she ends up running her car into a ditch and he came and helped pull her out or something like that. Alexis just loves everything about Daniel because his life is so different than hers. It's so simple when her life is just so complicated. She starts to realize how the things that she thought were important in life, like the mansion that her and her ex-boyfriend are fighting over, really aren't as important as she thought. She ends up kind of constantly driving back and forth. I believe it's like 2 hours away, visiting Daniel as often as she can. Of course, the more feelings she has for him, the more confused she becomes. Until then, ultimately, she just has a huge decision to make. Probably my favorite book of the summer is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This was her debut novel, guys. This is the first book she wrote, and it's so good. It got so much publicity all over TikTok, Instagram. This book is one of those that every other chapter goes back and forth between present time and years ago. It's like 6 years ago, Percy and Sam, girl and a guy, become inseparable. They spend every summer together, basically young love, a friendship turning into love, until some really unfortunate things happen, some misunderstandings, things just kind of end. They go their separate ways, and here we are 6 years later. Here we are a decade later, and I think I just said 6 years ago, but no, it's 10 years ago. But for 6 summers, these guys were together. So 10 years later, Sam's mom passed away and Percy needs to go back for his mom's funeral. So this book just really dives deep into their relationship, and it's just such a, I don't even remember exactly how it ends. I mean, like, I know, but I don't know. And it's just such a beautiful, cute, heartwarming story. Like, you read this book and you're like, I just know this kind of stuff happens in real life, and it better, because this is what love is. Okay, lastly is Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan, and this book was just so fun. I think I just connected to it because Nora is a single mom. Her ex-husband, total a-hole, doesn't even bother to keep in touch with his 2 children. And he was a loser. He didn't work or provide anything towards the relationship, towards the family. Like, she did everything. So basically, Nora's job is she writes these stories that get made into little like Hallmark movies. Well, it ends up that one of her scripts gets picked up for like the big screen. Now she's gonna be like at the movies. So it ends up that one of the scenes of the movie that she wrote is going to be filmed at her house, because she has this like little cottage thing on the back of her property that's in the book that they like want to come there and film it and make it seem real. So the 2 main characters of the movie, I forget the girl's name, but the guy's name is Leo. Just picture like a younger Brad Pitt. He shows up and Nora is just like annoyed with him, but yet she finds him super attractive at the same time. At the end of filming, Leo ends up not wanting to leave. He wants to kind of hide out at her house to just get away from the hustle, bustle, all the crap that comes with being a famous actor that no one wants to deal with. He ends up offering to pay Nora, like, can I stay at your house? I will pay you X amount of dollars, so on and so forth. And she couldn't turn it down because she really needed the money because of her loser of an ex-husband. So of course they start spending time with each other, getting to know each other. Leo is just so interested in how like mundane and kind of boring Nora's life is, like just going to the local grocery store. He just enjoyed those kind of activities because he never even got to do anything like that before. It had a really unexpected ending, which really romance books are usually pretty predictable. This was like, wow, I actually need to reread this chapter because I can't believe that just happened. I just loved the like realness of this whole book. I actually would love a part 2 to this. When I shared this on Instagram and tagged the author, she responded back and said she was already like writing her next book. And I'm like, does it have Nora and Leo in it? And she's like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, dang it. So yeah, guys, that is it. I'm so sorry these videos take so long. I know it's hard to stick with the video that's over 20 minutes. Hopefully I can cut this down under 20 minutes. I try to get so close to at least 15 minutes. I'll do the best I can, but thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for next Sunday for more book videos. Follow me on Instagram, ourfamilynest, and follow me on Goodreads. Links are all down below in the description. Bye guys.